He was asked to sign the visitor's book in an exclusive gentleman's club, and he did so, with just the word Philip. The desk clerk called him back and said he needed more information. So Philip obliged with 2 further words. Of Greece, I suspect the best stories about the royals are made up, although the fairy tale one that launched Elizabeth and Philip Love and Duty BBC One is not. One July day in 1939, King George VI sailed into Dartmouth Harbour with his teenage daughters, to inspect the Royal Navy cadets. There was little romance to the early years of Liz and Phil. Matt Bayliss, one of these cadets, dashing, charming, and a second cousin to the princesses, was tasked with escorting them. Despite that beginning, there was little romance to the early years of Liz and Phil. When Philip proposed marriage in 1946, the King and the Queen Mother thought their daughter was too young. The public mood was not exactly warm towards Philip either. He'd bravely fought for Britain during the war, but his sisters had married Nazis. When the wedding did take place in November 1947, it had to be low-key, so as not to antagonize a public ground down by bomb damage and rationing. As the title suggested, Elizabeth and Philip's 70-year marriage has been defined, not just by 2 people's love for each other but by a nation's feelings towards them. If anyone grasped that, it was Philip, who was instrumental in getting cameras to film his wedding and later to give an intimate view of Windsor family life to the nation. Even the Duke's sense of humour seems to have had 2 roles, personal and public. We can get all outraged about his jokes, making him a pressure valve for jokes we're not allowed to make anymore. Meanwhile, as many candid shots by long-serving royal snapper Anwar Hussain showed, the Queen clearly finds her consort very funny and relies on his whispered quips to get through many a dreary function. One can hardly imagine how many of those they've notched up in 70 years and how important it must be to have someone's hand to hold through them. You may think Stalkers BBC One are just lonely people, seeking the same kind of intimacy but going about it wrong. This revealing film suggested it's far darker. One lady had endured a hate campaign, involving dead mice in the post and sinister messages on social media, spearheaded by the ex-girlfriend of her partner. Some people do take rejection hard, but the ex-girlfriend was actually working in league with her mother. They weren't just dogged about it. They were creative, forever finding new ways to hint at what they'd discovered about their victim and to threaten without breaking the law. It seemed like a hobby into which they poured staggering amounts of enthusiasm. Other cases were different. A bus driver was effectively living as a fugitive from a passenger who'd one day decided she loved him elsewhere. A controlling partner turned into a controlling monster when the relationship ended. One constant seemed to be the hours put in. There are no part-time stalkers. Another was the indifference of the police. Without the efforts of the anti-stalking charity Paladin, the vaguely positive outcomes of last night's stories might all have been tragedies.